What's happening, everyone? Today's video is on Argo blockchain. As promised, we have the conference call today. We have earnings that were released last night. We've been able to digest that. We also have analyst upgrades on Argo blockchain. Plenty to get through, so let's go. Yeah. Coincidence. Yeah. Coincidence. Yeah. Coincidence. Something that happens by chance, I think not. What's the crack, everyone? Welcome back to Buy Wholesale. Hope, of course, you're all well. Plenty happening over the last 24-hour period. So let's get into it. Let's start off with analysts. We go into Bazinga, and we can see here Roth Capital initiates coverage, and they changed their stance to a buy symbol at $27. This is for the ARBK ticker symbol. You can see that yesterday we finished up at 17.82, which shows us, based on that price and based on the analyst expectations, that shows over 50% upside. Lovely stuff. Now, if we can convert that back to ARB, as we know, it's 10-to-1 is the ratio. So if we divide the 27 by 10, and then we look at the exchange rate, we will bring it to about £1.98. If we go to ARB, we can see that today, bear in mind, it was up, this stock. It was up about nearly 2% when the market opened, which was a good sign that the market was maybe digesting the earnings, which we'll get into in a moment. However, it is now down 0.8%. And Bitcoin's throbbing, so again, it's that old story. What is going on with Argo blockchain? But if we go £1.29 plus 54%, that brings us to 198. There you go, guys. That is roughly it. So it's about a 55% increase based on that analyst expectations. And this is all, by the way, before the earnings call. This video will have the earnings call on it, but this is before, so I'm doing this video just to sort of bring us up to date. We can see here there's a buy symbol coming in, although it is a red candlestick. We are right at the top of the Bollinger Band though, so that is interesting to see. But when I did my video on the 28th, although I did say it was a green candlestick, we were below the 9-day moving average. I don't buy unless it's there. I wouldn't have bought here because it's right on the cusp, but we can now see that we are above, although it is a red candlestick for now. I would suspect that will change to a green candlestick. We can see that when we've opened, we've just steadily went up, but some serious selling powers came in here. Maybe that's people getting cold feet before earnings. I don't know, but we're back up. So the charts are looking good at this stage. And like I said, it was very much dependent on earnings. Earnings can swing something up or down. So I still would like to increase my position size in Argo blockchain. I'm just going to let earnings play out and we'll just see what way it goes. If it goes to the moon, happy days. I have a substantial amount of money in there and I would be delighted to see that for everybody. If it pulls back, I'm also content enough. There was nothing in the earnings report yesterday that came out that was of great surprise. It was a great earnings report, let's just be honest about it. It was. So this part of the video is just going to wrap up what we have, give you my thoughts, and then we'll do the call. So the key takeaways are generated record revenue of 26 million, 19.3 million pounds, record 17.3 million of net income and 28.2 million. My 587 Bitcoin and Bitcoin equivalents in Q3 of 2021, which we kind of had an idea of. That's brilliant. We completed ADR listing on the NASDAQ, as we know, and the construction is well on their way. And I just want to say, not for this video, but go on and look at the sites. You can see the videos. The Dickens County video that they've recently put up is phenomenal. It's really brilliant to see. A lot of people moaning, why are we wasting our money on barbecues and all? I don't really like you as shareholders. Please just exit and move on. You need to understand this is fantastic. I think this is really, really good. They're inputting into the community. They're building up almost a fan base. They're going to restore the local pool. They see that the community is clapping them. It's a small community. I just think that everyone will embrace Argo blockchain. It'll only spread word of mouth that Argo is doing great things and a great place to work for. So I'm really excited about that. I think Peter and Wall and the team have done a great job figuratively and literally building foundations there for the future. So that is phenomenal. And they go on to talk more about it. We'll do a further review on the back of the earnings call. So this is the earnings call now.
And this is the first time we've held a quarterly earnings call with our investors since we listed on NASDAQ in September. So as a dual listed company on the LSE and on NASDAQ, I think most of you know we believe in providing timely updates to our investors whenever possible. And although it's not a requirement by the SEC, we believe that these quarterly calls will be an important way to keep our shareholder base informed and engaged. After all, as I've said many times before, it's you, the shareholders, that own the company. So I'm pleased to be here with you today to provide insights into our results and to give investors an opportunity to learn more about Argo. We believe we are trailblazers in the cryptocurrency world. Among other things, we were the first crypto company to issue regular monthly operational updates starting back in January of 2020, which seems like a long time ago now. The market was obviously in a very different place. and we've provided a good deal of transparency to our shareholders no matter what the market cycle that we've been in. So it's my commitment to you that we'll hold these quarterly earning calls in order to keep everyone informed. As this is our first earnings call, I also want to take a moment to give a brief intro to Argo. I think many of you are familiar with the company, but some of you may not be as familiar. We're an ESG-focused cryptocurrency mining and blockchain infrastructure company based in UK, Canada, and the US. As of September 30th, we had about 21,000 mining machines in our fleet with a total capacity of about 1.075 exahash or 1,075 petahash. That's for SHA-256 mining, for Bitcoin mining. I think as many of you know, we also mine Zcash. About 5 to 10% of our hash rate goes towards Zcash on the Equihash algorithm. We have 2 owned and operated facilities in Quebec, which are powered by hydro, and we also have hosted facilities through our engagement with Core Scientific in the US. 3 different facilities at Core we have machines. A key part of the Argo story has always been sustainability, which has been central to our strategy and our values since we founded the company. We're the first cryptocurrency miner that we know of to actually release a climate strategy, not just say we're ESG friendly, but actually put a climate strategy out, and the first to be climate positive, which means we mitigated our scope 1, 2, 3 greenhouse gas emissions for about 2020 and 2021, and then gone beyond. We've reached net zero and then gone beyond that. Our main strategy has always been from inception to use low-cost renewable power for all of our mining operations. And this is why we are so excited about growing our operations with a new flagship facility in Dickens County in West Texas, a facility which will rely principally on renewable energy for power. I'll get into more detail on our Texas efforts a little bit later on. Importantly, we've been able to grow our business and produce results while being climate positive. Specifically, we're an industry leader in mining margin, achieving a company record 85% mining margin in Q3, which translates to a direct cost per Bitcoin mined of $6,293 US. Another key component of our strategy, which many of you are familiar with, is our smart growth philosophy, by which we seek to optimize the timing and pricing of our purchase of mining rigs and therefore maximize the ROI on those purchases. As we say, the right machines at the right time for the right price. So let's dig into our results a little bit for the third quarter. We generated record revenue of 26 million USD and record EBITDA of 28 million USD. For our UK friends, that's 19 million pounds of revenue and 21 million pounds of EBITDA. We mined 597 Bitcoin this quarter, which was a 20% increase over the second quarter of this year. And that brings our total Bitcoin hold to 1,836 as of September 30th, 2021. Obviously, we are bullish on Bitcoin. We believe that will continue to appreciate in value. And because of this, we continue to hold the Bitcoin that we mine to the extent it's not needed to fund our growth of operations. I also want to give an update on some additional machines and hash rate that we're installing at Core Scientific that we purchased early this year. Many of you have been asking for an update on these machines, and they've been coming on a little bit later than expected due to logistical challenges in shipping machines from Asia. So currently we've installed 165 petahash of the 610 expected this quarter. Let me just hop to the next slide there. So most of the remaining 445 petahash is expected to be installed by the end of this month. There's more machines going in this week, for instance, and the balance of the machines will be installed by the end of the year. Once these machines are installed, this will bring our total mining capacity to about 1.7 exahash. We also announced on September 30th an order for 20,000 S19J Pro machines from Bitmain. These machines are expected to be delivered starting in Q2 2022 to our mining facility in Texas. And based on this order alone, we expect the installation to be finished by the end of Q3 2022. And that'll take our total projected mining capacity to 3.7 exahash. And that excludes any potential hash rate uplift from our immersion cooling tech that we're putting in Texas, and obviously any other machines that we purchase. In terms of purchasing other machines, we're continuing to monitor the market, and we'll make additional machine purchases when appropriate and announce those to the market. All right, so just a few kind of general comments on the crypto space. It's obviously been an exciting few months. It's an exciting few years. It continues to be a dynamic space, never boring. This year, obviously, in particular, has been pretty incredible. Most recently, with the ban on cryptocurrency mining and then cryptocurrency trading in China, there's been a huge influx of miners coming to the United States. The U.S. now represents 35% of global hash rate. Then you add another 10% of the global hash rate from Canada, and North America represents almost 50% of global hash rate. If you go back, a year ago, this is something a lot of us were talking about, but the fact that the hash rate has migrated this quickly to North America is really extraordinary, and it's happened much faster than anyone expected. We're also seeing increased adoption of Bitcoin in the global financial system. Financial institutions are becoming more comfortable with investing in Bitcoin. We recently saw the launch of some Bitcoin futures ETFs, and this continued adoption is also showing up in the form of increased institutional investor interest in crypto and crypto mining as a way to gain exposure to Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Obviously, we're very excited about the prospects for crypto in general and Argo in particular, and that brings us really to the reason we're here today on this quarterly earnings call. And that's that in September, we listed on the NASDAQ in the United States. It was a big moment for us and something that we're proud of. Took an enormous amount of effort from our team to get it over the line. It was more complicated coming from London than if we'd been listed in somewhere else in North America, for instance. We strongly believe that a dual listing makes sense for Argo, as accessibility to capital is really important to the growth of our company. Many of you were calling for this strategy for a long time, and we heard those calls. And the NASDAQ listing gives us access to the largest pool of capital in the world. As a result of the listing, we're able to raise approximately 150 million US net of fees and expenses. And this capital is already going to work for general corporate purposes, including specifically, obviously, the purchase of more mining machines and to build and develop out the infrastructure at our mining facility in Dickens County, Texas. All right, so speaking of Dickens County, we're going to talk a little bit about Texas. So as I've talked about many times before, Texas is becoming a very popular location for Bitcoin. The secret's out, and Texas's share of global hash rate is dramatically increasing. It seems like monthly. So why are folks moving to Texas? Why are miners setting up shop in Texas? And the answer is very simple: low-cost power and an abundance of low-cost renewable power specifically. In fact, Texas is the largest generator of wind power in the U.S. There's currently about 23 gigawatts of renewables online in Texas. That's mostly wind. And then there's an additional 10 gigawatts of wind and solar that are coming online in the next few years, mostly solar. So if you think wind was the kind of renewable choice of the past in the last 10 years, solar is the kind of renewable choice of the future in Texas. Oh, there's still lots of wind. Texas is obviously a very unique environment, unique power environment, because it has its own power grid, which is managed primarily, not entirely, but primarily by an entity called ERCOT, which is the Electric Reliability Council of Texas. And because of the changing generation mix in Texas and the high peak loads that they need during the summer or the cooler winters, ERCOT offers some very interesting ancillary programs for large power users like crypto miners. Controlled load response, or CLR, basically allows miners to shut down all or part of their operations at peak times in exchange for certain types of incentives. And this mechanism allows mining facilities to provide a base load of demand for renewable power, and at the same time to essentially immediately shed load at times of peak demand. There's very few industries that have this type of flexibility that are able to balance generation, i.e. energy production, with load, i.e. power use. So by miners kind of helping balance generation and load, we're helping to increase the resiliency of the grid and promote the increased use of renewable power in Texas. And that's not just miners saying it, that's actually statewide elected officials, ERCOT folks. There's lots of support for Bitcoin miners being connected to the Texas grid. So we're building out our Helios facility in Dickens County. It's about an hour east of Lubbock. We own 160 acres of land there that is next door, right next door, and I'll show you some photos in a minute, to an electrical substation. And that substation has 5.5 gigawatts of power. We have access to up to 800 megawatts of power coming out of that substation. Phase 1 of our facility, which is under construction now, will be 200 megawatts, and we'll be using immersion cooling tech at the facility, which, given the dust and the temperature and just the general kind of interest now and increase in the amount of immersion cooling that's happening in the space, we believe immersion cooling is the future and will be much more efficient than air cooling, and will allow us to push the machines harder and run them longer than if we were using air cooling. We'll be hiring at least 20 local people in Dickens County, and support for the project has been very strong from the local community. I was recently down there. There's some YouTube videos on the site. Some of you might have seen, might have not seen. If you haven't seen them, it's a great community, and we made a couple nice videos, so it's probably worth checking out if you've got time. All right, so in terms of construction, it's well underway. These pictures up on the screen now were taken in the last couple days. They're pouring the concrete for the slab for the building pad, making good progress. The building, I spoke to our team down there yesterday, and the building will start to be stood up on that pad this week, and will be installed over the next about 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, and it's projected to be up by the end of the year. In terms of what the site looks like, this is actually, I'm going to draw on here for a minute. So this is the site, the building footprint. So it's 135,000 square feet. And this drone shot was taken a couple weeks ago. So we're much further, as you saw in the last picture, we're further along with the slab now. We have our own concrete batch plant on the site. It's an hour east of Lubbock, as I said. So it's a long way to bring concrete. So we've made the decision to create our own concrete on the site. A lot of concrete needed for the slab. The building has actually started to arrive. So if you see here, there's well, most of the building is there already. As I said, it's going to start to be stood up this week. And this is how it's arriving. It's arriving in the back of shipping containers. It was built off-site. So it's essentially a big Lego project, and they'll be installing the building starting on this side and then working down that way. So this is the kind of a wide shot of the entire site. The previous shot was just over here, so that's where the building is being created. Now that's the first phase. But you can see there's 160 acres of property there, so lots of space to rinse and repeat, to expand and you know, make up put up more buildings in the future. The Cottonwood substation is here, and that's where we're tapping into. And our substation is being built right here. Again, this was taken a couple weeks ago, this drone shot. So the interconnection will go like this into there, and then the power will come into there. Over here in the distance, you see the McAdoo wind farm. There's a number of wind farms in the adjacent area in Dickens County in West Texas. It's a huge place for wind. I was talking to a local the other day, and they said, finally, we've always been known as a very windy place. Finally, it's being used for something good. So lots of development happening, or development has happened, and when you're down there, you see lots of more turbines going up. All of that wind power is also in such abundance that it's causing power congestion at the substation. So by building the facility next to the substation, we're helping to provide load, and that eases the congestion. There's very little local load. The nearest large city of Lubbock uses about 400 megawatts, and we'll be using, and that's 200,000 people. We'll be using 200 megawatts at our facility alone for the first phase. All right, so here's the Cottonwood substation. As I said, it's 5.5 gigawatts of power, and this is what we'll be tapping right into. The vast majority of the power coming into the substation is coming from renewable power generated in the area. When we were down in Dickens County, a few weeks ago on our trip, we spent a lot of time with the community. The local judge, Dickens County Judge Kevin Brendel, is the highest-ranking elected official in the county. He's very excited and supportive of the project. Dickens County is in a rural area of Texas that has been historically very reliant on agriculture as its primary economic engine. But a lot of those jobs have left. So Judge Brendel and the community really appreciate the opportunity and benefits that Argo can bring to the county in the form of jobs, tax revenue, future development. So while we were there, he helped organize a community barbecue, kind of a getting to know you event with the community. We had about 300 folks show up, and we introduced, Argo, explained, what Bitcoin mining is, what cryptocurrency is, and talked about our plan to develop a world-class mining facility in the community. As we're investing millions of dollars into the county, we feel like it's important for us to be good corporate citizens and good neighbors and build strong long-term relationships. So we announced our first public service project, which is the refurbishment of the community pool in Spur, which Spur is the largest town in Dickens County. It's a town of about 1,200 people. And the pool has been closed there since 2009. The county has been unable to find the funds to refurbish the pool. So we're excited about the opportunity to give back to Dickens County with a project that is needed. And has been very well received, and we hope that shareholders and stakeholders appreciate our efforts in that regard. As I mentioned earlier, there's really strong political support for crypto and Bitcoin mining in Texas. During my recent trip, I had the opportunity to participate in a panel at the Texas Blockchain Summit, very well organized event. The Texas Blockchain Council put it together, and they're doing a terrific job of mobilizing and advocating for the crypto industry in Texas. There's a tremendous amount of support for cryptocurrency mining in Texas right now, and we're excited to be there. All right, so with that, I'll turn the presentation over to our CFO, Alex Appleton, who's going to walk us through our financial performance for the quarter.
Thank you, Peter. As Peter mentioned, we had a strong quarter from a financial perspective. It's the highest revenue quarter that we've had to date, generating nearly $26 million of revenue in the quarter, which was an 8% increase over the previous quarter and a 360% increase over the same period last year. The primary drivers for this increase are an increased mining capacity, coupled with the recent rise of the price of Bitcoin that we've seen. In the first 9 months of 2021, we generated nearly $69 million of revenue, which is a 238% increase over the same period in 2020. In the third quarter, our net income was $17 million, and our year-to-date net income is $28 million. So 2021 is continuing to be a strong year for us. Long may that continue. Our gross profit for the third quarter was 31 million. Some more eagle-eyed amongst you might notice that that's higher than our revenue for the period. How is that possible? Well, it's due to the change in value of our Bitcoin holding, which is reflected in the income statement in the line change in fair value of digital currencies. So in the third quarter, when there was a significant increase in the price of Bitcoin, which goes into this calculation of our gross margin, you see this volatility and this change in our gross profit. However, in terms of our Bitcoin, our mining margin, which is defined as mining revenue less direct costs divided by mining revenue, that stayed relatively consistent in the 80s. Onto our average direct cost per Bitcoin mined. And I want to go back to a metric that Peter mentioned earlier. This is the direct cost of Bitcoin mined. And for the third quarter, we mined Bitcoin at average direct costs. So this is direct costs are our power or hosting costs per Bitcoin of $6,293, which at the moment is 15% of each Bitcoin's fair market value. So this is the inverse of the mining margin that we often discuss, which at 85% is one of the best in the industry, something we're really proud of. And this is one of the primary examples of how we're creating value for shareholders. We're able to mine this Bitcoin, add it to our HODL, at a direct cost that is a fraction of its market value. So it's a good business to be in. Over the past year, we've continued to increase our mining capacity and the efficiency of our fleet. And this, coupled with the increasing Bitcoin price, has driven our mining margin from 52% in Q4 2020 to 85% this quarter. And this is why we've achieved such a steep rate of growth. Critical to this strategy is the cost of power. And once our Texas facility is online, our cost of power, and therefore our direct cost per Bitcoin mine, will be significantly less than what it is today. So our mining margin versus Bitcoin price. So while the price of Bitcoin is obviously, a key driver of our business and our profitability, it's not had an outsized impact on our mining margin. So throughout 2021, we've seen the price of Bitcoin going from $29,000 to over $60,000 where it is today, and back again. However, our mining margin has remained relatively consistent, as I said earlier, at over 80%. Onto our balance sheet. Now, our balance sheet has been strengthened significantly this year, especially taking into account the recent capital raise as part of the NASDAQ listing. In addition, I'd also highlight our holding, which at the end of September, our digital currencies holding was 1,836 Bitcoin, which at that time was valued at $79 million as at the end of September, which is a significant increase from the $4 million at the end of 2020. We had 86 million of cash on hand at the end of the quarter, some of which subsequent to the quarter we've used to pay back part of the Galaxy loan. So as at the end of September, we had $45 million loan with Galaxy. We've paid $25 million of that back, leaving us with remaining 20 million Bitcoin backed loan with Galaxy. We have very little debt overall, even adding that in. We have the lease, we have the mortgage, and we have that Bitcoin backed loan. And with our cash on hand and our HODL, Argo has sufficient flexibility, to pursue our strategic growth plans in Texas, infrastructure, machines, etc.
My plan was to literally chop up that video, but I think it's worthwhile just putting the whole video out there. If you can see, I've tidied it up a bit and made it a bit faster, but overall, that was a 98% brilliant call. I love the fact that they reiterated the fact that they are the only miner that has this much interaction with the shareholders, which is what we've been talking about in the channel for ages. We love. I love the fact that they reiterated all about the clean energy. I'm loving all of that. Apologies as well. My wife brought in my lunch during the middle of that, so hopefully that wasn't too irritating. They reiterated all the situation with Argo, which I think is great for new beginners to Argo. The 85% margin, industry leading, is phenomenal, which we talked about before. The only downside for me was obviously the delay in the machines, which we had rumbles about. We had an idea that was potentially coming, and they're using import-export issues as a reason behind that. But we've seen that with a lot of different stocks. A lot of different companies are using that. There is issues there, but that is going to be a bit of a delay in going forward. But it seems to be that they're making great progress, overachieving everywhere else. A bit of a delay before we can get up to that 2.3 capacity. capacity. And I love the fact that when they say when Texas is up and running, they're going to be able to reduce that 85% margin further due to the costs of energy going down. So once Texas is up and running, loving all of that. I really think it was a good presentation. The earnings look fantastic. Obviously, it was talked about briefly. We've already seen the loan that's being paid back. The Galaxy is 25 million already paid back. Loving everything about Argo blockchain. And even risks. We got a question in from Roth. I didn't record the questions because it was just too long, but there was a question from Roth who we talked about just prior about their price targets, and they'd asked a question about the procurement of materials, something that I, being in the industry, if anyone knew, I'm a quality surveyor, I know that there is industry hikes. Steel, for example, is up around 20% year on year. It's incredible the amount of rises in materials right now due to inflation and different things like that, but they had confirmed there, Peter, that he said it's all prefabricated. The final delivery is to be done this week. It's all done, no issues. They had got in early and made sure that their procurement was all tied up. So that is brilliant. That is a likelihood of a high risk for me with the construction. And it looks like they've got that tied up. I would still allow for some sort of delay, slight risk issue down the road, but that is a massive, massive current industry issue that Argo blockchain seem to have tied up as well. Paying for the site back when there was a lot of people complaining that maybe paid too much for it. Perhaps all of this is now starting to make sense. What is your thoughts on these earnings? Are you as excited as I am? I think this is brilliant. It's just what I was looking for. The update, yes, bit of a downer if you want to say that the installation of those machines are delayed, but apart from that, all good, and it's something that will be rectified. So yeah, please leave your comments down below. Like, subscribe, help me grow the channel. Please smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It really helps me out. If you enjoy this video, it's good to get that feedback. Check out the links below for free crypto, free shares, and you can also buy me a coffee if you feel like supporting the channel. And I'll catch you in the next video, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, coincidence. Yeah, coincidence. Yeah, coincidence.